Good morning, traders. Welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open up to the public every single Wednesday. This is Spartan speaking, by the way. Going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of what's going to happen this morning. Once I'm done talking here, Beth's going to come on, give you a breakdown of what's going on from a macro perspective, any news events that happen over the course of this evening or this morning. Should be going through any of the bigger picture items that make sense to be looking at as well, and individual items, ETFs, whatever. That, like I said, will make sense to be looking at. After that's done, I'm going to be going through the individual names that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll talk about the news associated with those gap up, gap downs. We'll also go through the SPY, the FANG, the Qs, the IWM, and the VIX. After that's done, Selpage will come on, go through the macro environment from his perspective, any analyst calls he's looking at for today, as well as individual names. And we'll do a quick little recap of those names that I went through this morning. And as well as that pre-market action plan that I will write up, and we'll be ready for the open. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Beth, guys, and I'll talk to you in a little bit. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Oh my, I am indeed. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Pre-market here Wednesday. SpartanTrading.com. Open to the community globally every Wednesday morning. My brain continues to hurt. And, I have a very busy brain right now. With that said, we have to, the elephant in the room continues to be Ukraine, Russia, yada, 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 raising cash. But the cash that's going on right now is more on the corporates, on the institutional side. And I'll show you why in a second. There's just a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. And as the longer we drag on with this Russia situation, I think the higher the probability the Fed will be less aggressive than everybody thinks. Okay, inflation's here, it's sticky, we know that. Right, we'll see what kind of data we get. The US here, we have mortgage rates, you can see 4.06%, we have red book, and then we have the 2-year. And we'll talk once again about the inversion of the yield curve is very, very specific when you're talking about what the Fed looks at, okay? I cannot impress upon you enough. It's the 3-month bill against the 10-year. That is what they look at in terms of recession on the inversion, okay? And we'll take a look at that as well. All right, what's going on here? Yay! Finally, the S&P is joining us. NASDAQ and Russell. How does everybody feel now? Every day we see that there's momentum on the upside and the downside. It's I hate to use this word, but it is transitory at times, right? So you have to be, and this is why within this room, it is so incredibly important to be disciplined / very technically driven. And I don't say that a lot, but I'm a long-term swing kind of gal, but I'm still hedged. Instead of being 100%, I'm down to 75%. So we'll see how that plays out. And I continue to pick Twin Spring just to see what he's doing, what he's looking to trim, as well as the cash, etc. Who cares? This is nothing. This is like a paper tiger here. Sanctions, paper tiger. Leverage against Putin, paper. It doesn't matter, okay? But this does. Okay, Fed's Bostic says Ukraine crisis adds to risk outlook. That is one of the things that they look at when they're going to sit at the FOMC. Yeah, you've got inflation on one side, but on the other side, okay, you don't want to add gasoline to the fire right now. So I think it's going to be a lot more measured than anybody expects globally, right? So yeah, it keeps going. Right? China comments were interesting yesterday, right? In terms of with Ukraine sovereignty and stuff like that. I found that very interesting. But we'll see, right? All right, once again, what is their mandate? Maximum employment, stable prices, moderate long-term interest rates, okay? How do you get stable prices? Right. This is the worst case scenario, I think, globally for central banks with what's going on. Okay, it would be anyways, excluding Russia, to be honest with you, because with quantitative tightening starting, there's no way to get a soft landing. So I don't know. Let's see. Inflation hedges, everybody's talking about that. I've told you what mine are. So Lowe's versus Home Depot, seriously, right? We shall see. Right? And this is why, when it's all said and done, it still comes down to earnings, guidance, expectation, et cetera, right? We're going to do actually a little bit of a deep dive. We haven't done it in a while on clean energy, on the EVs, et cetera. See how that's going to look like. And then, we're also going to look at in terms of what happened last time they did something like this, Russia. The ruble went down obviously quite a bit, right? And as well did the stock market. And I'll show you the RSX, what that looks like. We're not quite there. We still have farther to go on the downside on a measured move. It's funny when one country is willing to put boots on the ground and all other countries only willing to do paper stuff. It's like, okay. So are we entering a Cold War? You betcha. He's still pissed about that NATO stuff. Come on. Those raises its earning forecast. Beautiful. This is just top dog. You talk about, okay. All right. So how is it that, you look at Lowe's and you look at Home Depot and you look at the reaction, right? To Lowe's versus Home Depot, right? I just find it remarkable. Yeah, okay. Quest Diagnostics. Downgrades, upgrades, all the way around grades. I do want to take a peek though. It's Wednesday, but I got the Tuesday report from Earnings Whispers. SKD, MNDY, those. The drill, right? If you guide higher, you get the benefit of the doubt. If you guide lower, VIPs, okay. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's look at the Whisper report. There's a couple interesting things going on here right now. One of the things that I think is really notable and important is February. Guidance. 63% of companies have raised their guidance higher. The normal is 41%. Now this is, you could still say this is the last blow off for, as we get further and further away with quantitative easing. But I don't know, there's just some companies that will continue to make money. They've got great management and they'll find a way to do it. We'll still see the divvy increases. We'll still see the stock buybacks, right? Surprises, 70%. What's wrong with these numbers? And yet, sky's falling. And I'm not, look, it's really hard on the valuation side to figure out, tease out, okay, what's inexpensive or what's field value now. And that's something where I still say it's going to take 1 to 2 quarters for us to really get things, settled, right? I want to show you this as well. Let's see, is this it? Nope, that's not the one I want. This is the one. This is investor sentiment. Look at where we are right now versus where we were, okay? And you could say, well, we have a lot lower to go. That's the one thing. Or you could say this is a bullish divergence, right? That this is not like the COVID, where everybody on the investor side sold the baby with the bathwater. And you'll see it, and I'll show you as well in the AAII. And also cash raising. Okay, that's the same as what I'm seeing as well, right? I'm an optimist. What can I tell you? All right, tomorrow Friday. Lots of earnings coming in. Right. This is even more fascinating that with everything that's going on, okay, on the sector rotation, sector performance, it's still not the end of the world. Here we were, here we are. I just find it fascinating that, everybody say everything that we're saying, we're still not seeing anything near. And yet here we have certain companies that are down 75% from the high. And what's the theme with all those companies? High PE multiples, revenue, margin growth, right? And I don't know at what point do we say, okay, some of these tech names that are over-owned, over-loved, they start to say, okay, well, we're gonna, start buying those, right? I don't know at what point. But I think that we know from yesterday, there's certain things that I want to keep an eye on. I think Apple, right? We talked about that. NVIDIA, we've talked about that. Those are the ones that I actually want to be short against my other box, sort of thing. Money flows coming out. Okay. Past week, it's not a rocket science there. Past month, yeah. And then we see past week, staples and discretionary. Quarter, it's just what can I tell you? A lot of unhappiness all the way around, right? All right, let's take a peek. New York Stock Exchange available cash. Okay, here we go. This is, what happened with COVID, February, March, right? All the way down here. Okay, here we are here. So we're still not seeing a preponderance of raising of cash. Now, granted, this is January 2022. We'll have to see what it looks like when we get more data. His allocation, this is also the end of January. We're starting to see it go up, okay? And this is basically small investors, right? And you can see here, this is where we were on the cash side, 25, right here. And here we are right now, okay? So, there's a lot of things that are saying, oh my God, but look at this, yesterday. This is why a lot of things bounce. There's a nice fund flow in there, right? Up and down and all around, right? But this has been probably the largest we have seen in quite some time, okay? It really is. Here we go, heat map. It's bullish. I mean, XOT 5, you can't go below 0, guys and gals. 5, RSX is at 2. So the preponderance of a bounce, but don't forget it, you can stay extended a hell of a lot longer on the upside than the downside. But when you're in a quote unquote bear market, you can flip and become extended on the downside longer than you can on the upside, because that's the nature of a bear market, right? Retail, consumer discretionary, right? Home builders, everything, ugly, ugly. Volatility. So this gives you a breakdown of what's going on, right? Lowest strength to the highest strength, right? And then you can see here, tech, look at this, right? And then energy top dog, 30-year optics, and then we have here on the shorter end, right? And then we go from there. Russia, right, Finland, Europe clearly would be the one, and that's what we're seeing. And here we have the US at 12. And what's top? New Zealand, Philippines, Brazil. Continue to watch Brazil. I still see really nice things going on there. I'm watching the EWZ. I'm waiting for it to break out. I'm in PBO. NU is another one, interesting one. That's the Brazilian stock that gets a lot of fun. And we'll see how it plays out. Platinum on the downside, soybeans, hogs. It was still, commodities super cycle, right? As you can see here, 10, 50, 200, green, 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 dark green, 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 right? XLY. This is what you would expect in this type of market flows. Energy is still relatively on the 50 and 200 day, right? Still robustly rose red, right? And then your summation is still, but you can see, I like to look at the oscillator more than the summation. And you can see here that we're starting to see some levels where you see, I don't know if I'd call it sustainable bounce, but a more effective bounce. But, to be honest with you, when you're down $20 one day and you're only up $1.50, what can I tell you? All right, so AMD and Teladoc are the two fives. I only look at fives on the social media side, okay? Let's take a look here in terms of money. SPX, a huge bet went through on this, right? This went in at $12.54 yesterday, right? 22 million bucks. Whatever this is, God bless. End of March. Interesting, right? 43.50. I know. At the time, it was 42.96. Right? And then you can see here, a lot of IWM went through, which is notable. These are hedges, right? 187 puts. Right? So when it's all said and done, 51.49. So 50-50, no, one way or the other, right? We continue to see, we did see more volume come in yesterday on the stock side. This is the problem right now with a lot of what we're seeing. We just don't have the retail buyers coming in nonstop intraday like we would have in Tesla, Apple, okay? And that's why we're meandering and we basically have nowhere to go. the pops are muted because you just have no sort of retail money coming in. It's broken right now, right? So if you look at that intraday, that was what was driving us for so many months, not there, okay? All right, so let's look at what they're looking at in terms of inflation. I don't know how this happens, but this is what they're expecting, 2.2, 2.1%. Okay, bonds, let's do it. Yield curve. I continue to look at the 2.5, but this is the one I want to continue to bring to your attention. This is the definition of an inversion in terms of what they look at, how it creates recession, is the 3-month treasury against the 10-year. That's economics 101, when it deals with the Fed. I don't care what, whatever, but this is what the Fed, when they talk about an inversion and you talk about the data in terms of how that causes a recession, it is the 10-year against the 3 months. Now, whether that changes or not, I don't know. But since, God was a little baby boy or whatever, a baby girl, right? Since the 1980s, this is what they look at. Okay, so just a teachable moment. And you can see here the lag time. Once it inverts, then you can see here, it very quickly you go into the recession. Okay, but it's kind of fascinating because you see here, it doesn't stay inverted for very long, right? So anyways, this is a 5-year break-even inflation rate. I thought this was pretty cool. It's 2.86. Just thought that was cool. And we're, right here we're at, where are we right now? We are at 1.90. So I thought that was, cool. 5.2. This is what's really interesting me right now. We're continuing to go down here. And this is what you would expect, right? In the higher interest rate environment, right? The short end of the short end, right? Fed funds all the way out to the 5-year, 10-year, right? That's where you would see it. And for the most part, anything beyond 10, a lot of it obviously has to do with, with the government and stuff like that, but also with the mortgage-backed securities, et cetera. But as you can see here, this obviously, I hope they fix that. But you can see here, this goes back to 2019, right? And if you go back farther, right? Look at it, okay? So even if you go back farther, now granted, this was the, with the dot-com bubble and stuff like that. And a lot of people saying this is the equivalent. The only problem I have with that, yes and no. A lot of the stuff with the dot-com bubble, basically those companies didn't even exist. It was just a placard. They just opened up. It kind of a little bit what we said on the crypto side, right? Some of these companies said, yeah, I'm getting into the business. Yeah. A lot of these, anyways. But you can see this goes back to the 1980s. So we literally can go a lot lower in this spread. And you can see here with the inversions, right? So just saying. Here's the 5-10 at the 78.6%. Yep. See what happens here, right? This is all to be expected. 5.30, all to be expected. It has to happen, right? Here's the 10-year. Interesting. It's just such a different look, right? With the 10-year versus the 5-year. And this is why I keep saying you're missing the point here with the short end of the curve. Everybody focuses on the 10-year, but au contraire, I only focus on the 5-year, 2-year going all the way down, because that's the most important one to me in terms of really what's going on. And you can see that right here. We're not even close, right, to where we are with the 5-year. And that's why if you look at the 5-10, it tells you the story. China. Interest rates. They're making a mistake here, friends. But anyways, I still think that the economy is fragile. And I think that they have to lower their interest rates. But a lot of it has to do with foreign direct investments, right? You have to maintain your interest rates as a result of it. Here's the German rates coming back down. Let's take a look here at the dollar. Right? And here we have, this is even more stunning, right? They're actually revaluing their currency. Cryptos still looking ugly. 7-day change, right? Here we go. Let's do it. Gold coming in. We talked about that. Copper, platinum. We're still, any meaningful dip is a buying opportunity. Okay, you have to be very patient. 85.41 is my pivot. on crude, right? Here we go. Here's, let's think a little bit about JR, one of our members here mentions this DNN. I'm keeping an eye on it. This is like a uranium rare earth sort of stuff company. This is a Canadian company. We'll keep an eye on that. I told you yesterday about, I'm already in Cameco as a swing. And I'm also in Freeport McMahon as a swing. And I added to you yesterday. And I posted in the room what I was doing with that. So I have a longer dated one and a shorter dated one. Here's URA, so this is uranium, right? And obviously you would think with oil situation, you would think that clean energy, right? They'd be going in more and more into nuclear power plants, et cetera. URA, this is uranium futures. You can see it's flagging right here. See if it breaks out and here you can see Freeport McMahon. It has a good look. I think it's going a lot higher. This obviously is more of a copper play, right? And here's Kensho Clean Energy, double bottom. I want to keep an eye on this. I don't know where we start to get money flows in, but obviously all of these names are taken to the woodshed that components in this overlapping right now. So you can see here, this is electric vehicles. Interestingly enough, doing better than some of the other ones, right? So that's EV, this is SMOG, same thing. We did not take last month's low, which is notable. Let's see if we can start to reclaim some of that stuff. ICLN, this is one that I do like to trade from time to time. I'm just biding my time on it right now to see how that's going to look. It is holding last month's low. It obviously, you know, like I said, these have been taken to the woodshed. It is pivoting around the 61.8%. I'm going to be a little bit patient on that. And the reason why I'm going to be patient on that is because I'm in some tan and I have some EV stuff on it as well. Here's Hale, Smart Mobility. You can see here. So all of these, right? Last month's low is obviously the most important thing, and they have not taken out yet last month's low. So this, a lot of these have Tesla in it, right? A lot of these have CLNE. This is another one. This one I'm actually in, and I'm in it on a spread, and I actually may cover, but I'm going to wait to see if it can reclaim on the monthly, the 20 EMA, right? Here's fuel cell. Also, let's keep an eye on this one. It's trying to hold up here, but you know, it's been flagging until it's, you know, technically looks different. So on all these, I don't add to any of these. I won't add to anything. The only thing I will do is if I'm in spreads is I will cover the rights, okay? If we basically start to reclaim technical support. So at this point in time, the technicals drive that component of my longer dated, my long-term portfolio. Here's ChargePoint. This is obviously the charging companies, right? Here's lithium, right? Just minding my own business on this one. I want to see if this is going to hold or not. LIT, and this is LAC against LIT. You can see that there's really no clear advantage one way or the other. But if LAC does start to break out, then I basically will get into LAC. And here's LIT against the BATT. So sideways consolidation, everything's selling off equally, right? So here's SLI. This is lithium. Same thing. It did pierce last month's low, but it is reclaiming patience on this one as well. You can see here with BATT, same sort of narrative, trying to hold here, right? And this basically, as you can see, in terms of this is the 20 EMA, right? Hasn't been around a long time. So on the monthly, we have to be patient with that. This is one that I really like to get involved. And I like to get involved in this one when it sweeps, okay? So if you see retail call buying in this or you see option call sweeps in it, I do tend to follow that. And it does tend to work for a couple of days. It's more of a scalp type trade though, okay? LICY, right? This is the one where I'm watching very carefully. I do have some puts on it, basically as it started to break down here. But this is the recycle for battery recycling, right? So keep an eye on that. Here's Ford. Let's take a peek here. All right, so as you can see here, we have this interesting, this is a monthly, this little double bottom going on here. I have been a little bit defensive on it. I have been doing some puts on it, but on the downside, I just don't think the downside is all that exciting. And the problem I have right now is because of the pullbacks in a lot of these names, it's expensive and it's almost too expensive to even think about getting in. All right. GM. Now, this is an interesting thing. I probably am going to do GM puts. And the reason being is this is the pivot point right here, 4707. Okay, so as long as it's below 47.07, I may start looking at some puts. It is a pivot point right here. I'm going to give it a little bit of time. We'll see how it plays out today. And you can see here, this is a GM Ford spread, and you can see that it's rolling over. So this would be a great hedge against my Ford is GM puts. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about right now. Here's Lucid. Really interesting, right? Cyrus consolidation here, trying to hang in there. We saw a lot of puts yesterday on it, but Nikola earnings, right? Had earnings today. See how that? It is, you know, a little bit higher pre-market. FSR, another one. So a lot of these are in interesting setups right now, but I just don't think you can do anything with this sector right now, to be honest with you, until we see some more money coming into it, as in institutional stuff. And I don't know once that's going to happen, right? To be honest with you right now. XPEV, I could say that's, you know, an H pattern possibly on the weekly. It's holding right now. Did not take out last month's low, so we'll see what happens there. This is the one that the Oracle of Omaha likes, right? And it looks like it's bear flagging to me, but hey, okay, tell you. You know, look, there's nothing wrong with having a small position in this as a spec play longer term, right? But this is not something you want to be big in. And you can see here that even NEO and XPEV are kind of sideways consolidating there. Here's Ride, right? Here's Rivian. Now this is really interesting. Keep an eye on this one because this is actually an extension pivot. So last week's high, we start to take that out. We actually can start to go up a little bit here. Okay, and I would look at 80.55. Well, Spartan's really brilliant on that one intraday. And he goes after this. EVGO is kind of interesting as well. I did have some puts on it. I've been slowly getting out of those puts. I only have 1/4 position on this. This is one that I do like to be in. And I have been hedging as well on that one as well. Here's the commodity CRB. Still bumping against the 78.6%. You know the drill, right? We have to take that out. And then officially, at least in my handbook, the bear market is done on the commodity side. And this goes back to 2008.
All right, Beth, I'm ready to pop on here.
All right, my friends, enjoy.
Alrighty, guys, let me just pop up the screen share here. There we go. Alrighty, so if you guys are new to the chat, make sure to click that Discord link that's emailed out to you. Once you guys do click the Discord, you're going to come into chat. It's going to look like this. First area to go to when you guys do come in, click on the disclaimer section, give it a read, as well as the new to chat information section, read from the top down. We'll go through that in detail in a little bit once we close down the YouTube stream. Pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got going on today, guys? A couple different things. Melly, Tesla, PA&W, CDNS, CSGP, VRT. Melly earnings beat, EPS and revs year-over-year growth 60.5%. Stocks gapping up on that. Tesla gapping up and typically the market. PA&W earnings beat, EPS and rev in line, year-over-year growth 29.5%. Stocks gapping up. CDNS gapping up on earnings as well. Q1 guidance raised, 2022 guidance raised. CSGP gapping down, earnings beat, EPS and revs year-over-year growth 14%. Q1 guidance lower, 2022 guidance lower. Than VRT gapping down on earnings as well, with Q1 guidance lower, 2022 guidance lowered on EPS and rev in line. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So the first two we're looking at today, guys, will be that Melly and that Tesla. And that Melly had a pretty decent gap up, a little 90 points. So let's take a look at both. All righty. So Melly, what do we got going on here, guys? Decent gap up off the lows. We did hold some major support on the daily. We're back above it, I should say. Right about what, 980 a share. Okay, let's take a look at what we got going on from a support resistance perspective. Let's label some levels here. Back above, reclaiming some major ranges. We actually were extended to the downside yesterday. We ended up filling the gap. It's quite interesting. go that low, but let's get that pivot right here. Okay. Let's take a look at this thing from an intraday perspective. Quite the range in the last couple of days. Wow. All right, pivot to the upside today, guys. It's going to be that 957.64 level. Level's able to hold. You got room to where it's 1,002 to 1,045. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 920.23 to 894.23 on the downside. And if that level breaks, you got further room for continuation. Last day's low, 873.63 on the downside. Overall on Melly right now, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. I think we got a little bit more room to push to the upside. We did reclaim short-term EMA support. I could see us pushing back into the $1,000 area, potentially more this morning. Going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation grind higher as long as that pivot point can hold. So I'll have to keep an eye on that level closely this morning. All right, so that is Melly. Let's take a look at Tesla. I'm just gonna do this. Those placing levels for Melly on there. Okay, there we go. Nice and clean. So what's going on with Tesla, guys? Let's take a look at that daily real quick. We did come back into the well, almost January lows, but not quite. Pretty darn close. We did, and we are below a head and shoulders on the daily to the downside. It is looking quite bearish on the daily perspective. Short-term hourly actually holding a inverted head and shoulders at the moment, right there from the last day pre-market and to this day's pre-market. Pivot to the upside will be 830.28. That level is able to hold 858.04 to 886.71 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 804.94 to 770.16 on the downside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. So pivot point can hold, we should see a continuation push to the upside. We'll see what happens there. I'll be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Tesla today, looking for a continued bounce. I got to do this. That's Melly. That's Tesla. Let's take a screenshot of both and let's move on to the next. All righty. Next two. You got PA&W and CDNS. All right, let's take a look at this PA&W. Gapping back up after earnings. Decent little move there. Again, extension to the downside. Interesting. Okay. Let's take a look at this thing on the daily. Almost back into the 50 MA, but not quite there. 504.10 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to be reclaimed and held. What is being held right now? We got room for a continuation where it's 514.53 to the 522.59 level on the upside. Unable to hold 491.13 to 473.92 on the downside will be tested. Overall on PA&W, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at CDNS. So stock's at about 148 a share. I guess that's kind of tight, but might have to get rid of some levels here, but we'll take a look at it intraday first. I guess it does fit. All right. So coming off the lows, a little bit of a gap up. There we go. Pivot to the upside today. It's going to be that 148.88. That level is able to hold. They got rid towards 152.35. That level breaks. We can see further continuation higher into the 154.59 level on the upside. Pivot unable to hold. Look for a pullback towards 144.89 to 142.45 on the downside. Overall on CDNS, going to be leaning bullish. Neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point can hold. That is PANW, that is CDNS. All right, let's take a look at the next two names. CSGP, VRT. All right, CSGP. Let's take a look here. Stock's gapping down. We are at about what, 48 a share. It's right into this lower end range. Major level of support on the monthly. Quite a large gap down from a percentage standpoint. Alrighty, so typical. All right, so 49.93 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold 47.15 to 44.91. That level breaks. 42.61 will be retested. Able to be reclaimed. Look for a pushback towards 53.25 to 56.45 43 on the upside. Overall, on the CSGP, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for a continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at VRT. Oops, I'm gonna go way lower than that. So we're at like 12.90 a share. There you go, way down here. $13.66 pivot, unable to hold. 12.13 to the 9.95 will be tested. Able to be reclaimed, room towards 14.93 to 17.15 on the upside. Overall, in VRT, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side as well today, looking for continuation lower. I think we get, well, I mean, guidance was pretty bad, so I think we'll get some continuation, obviously, if we can hold below that pivot. So that's what I'll be looking for today. Hold below the pivot, continue grind to the downside. Don't think you'll get, a huge move by any means, but I think it can fade off a little bit more. All right, screenshot this. Let's go through the spine of the fang. All right, so what's going on with the SPY, guys? A little bit of a gap up, not much, but slightly after last day's pullback before the close there. A little bit constructive. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Let's throw this up on the side, as I would like to do, like this. This is a good sense of what's going on from a bigger picture perspective as well. So I'm not sure if you guys saw this yesterday, but October head and shoulders, inverted head and shoulders was tested yesterday. Right there, held, which is great. That's a positive from a bullish perspective. From a bearish perspective, we're opening up, from another positive perspective, we're opening up with a little bit extended on the daily to the downside. Of course, we're still below EMA resistance, all of it. Still in the downtrend. That needs to break for further continuation higher. We'll see whether or not it's able to confirm today. Right now in the pre-market, I do believe we are breaking that parabolic downtrend. Let's just draw it out. Yep. We can even push it back up to last day's high. That's the short term. Medium term, obviously a little bit pushed out further. So we got some room to retest it. But typically what happens if you do break the parabolic downtrend, you do high probability push back towards the longer term downtrend. So we can look for that in the short term if we're able to hold this level. So it's important to recognize that pattern. Anyways, let's take a look at the pivot to the upside today. It's going to be this level right here, 431.36. This level is able to hold. You got room towards the 434.19 to 437.96. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 428.83 So 53 to 425.96, and if that level breaks, we're talking 423s on the downside. Overall on the SPY, I am going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side for now. That pivot point is not the pivot point, but that short-term downtrend is broken. I do think we can push up a little bit more as long as that level holds. So we'll see what happens on the open. That's going to give us our confirmation in the short term if it does hold the first probably 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll see what's what. That's the market. Let's take a look at Apple and the rest of the FANG here. Start with Apple here. So Apple opening up a little bit extended to the downside today, 167.33 gap fill area. Pivot to the upside, 165.91. We have room towards 166.85 to 168.34 if that level holds. Unable to hold, 164.16 to 162.12 on the downside will be retested. I'm going to be leaning bullish neutral on Apple at the moment as well. So that's Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. $30.59, 54 pivot levels able to hold towards 31.32 to this recent range high at 32.06. Unable to hold 29.92 to the 29.42 level on the downside will be retested. Did fill that gap. Going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side of Amazon today. If that pivot point can't reclaim, I think we'll fade off and go towards the recent range low from yesterday. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at Netflix. What do we got going on here, guys? Well, obviously, we broke that bear intra-flag range to the downside yesterday. That's a clear level that broke. $377.54 pivot to the downside today. Unable to hold towards 358.66. Able to hold 395.38 will be retested on the upside. Overall on Netflix, leaning bearish. Looking for continuation lower today. Does look like we'll continue to sell off at the moment to the downside. That's Netflix. Let's take a look at Facebook. Why have my levels never saved here? That's okay. That should be fine. Okay. Okay. So pivot to the upside today is going to be that 207 30 level from last day's high. I feel like there's nothing there. I would like to use maybe right here. It's going to tighten up some levels there. There you go. That's better. Okay, better. Pivot to the upside today, 203.90 level is able to hold, 207.30 to the 210.16 level will be tested. Unable to hold 263 to 197.26 on the downside. Overall on Facebook. Overall on Facebook, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a continuation lower if that pivot point's not unable to hold. Still, you know, not really any support from a buying perspective coming in intraday that I've been seeing. So I see that price action change, it's going to continue to fade off, I think. Certainly a lack of buyers in the name. Google, let's take a look at that. Uh, 26.19 pivot to the downside today. Levels able to hold 26.64 to 27.07 will be tested. Unable to hold 25.89 to the 25.45 level on the downside. Overall on Google, I'm actually leaning on the bullish neutral side today. I do think it is extended to the downside in the short term. We got some room to bounce. 26.38 would be that area I'd be looking for on the upside, and then we'll see what happens. Can reclaim that level, then I think you can get further continuation. That is Google. VIX, Qs, and IWM. Let's take a look at those three. So VIX still holding a pretty decent flag on the daily. It's not necessarily breaking down at the moment. Pivot to the upside today, 28.82 levels able to hold, 30 to 31.52 will be tested. Unable to hold 27.39 to the 25.03 level on the downside. Overall, not leaning any particular direction, but using it for direction on the market. Let's take a look at the Qs real quick. QQQ pivot to the upside today. 341.36 levels able to hold. Room back towards last day high. 344.06, then the 346.39 level. Unable to hold 337.58 to the 334.15 on the downside. And overall, the Q is going to be leaning bullish neutral. Looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. And last but not least, guys, let's take a look at the IWM. Pivots at the upside today, 197.48, levels able to hold. 201, unable to hold, 195.17 on the downside. Overall on the IWM, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today if that pivot point can hold as well, looking for a grind higher. So that's the SPY, that's the thing. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to South Beach while I type up that pre-market action plan, and then I will do a quick little recap before the open. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Good morning, guys. I just read a disturbing headline. Trump sides with Putin as Biden tries to stop war. I have to read that article, but moving forward, let's see what we got this morning. Markets bouncing a little bit. Like been the case recently, a lot of the moves are overnight. A lot of gapping moves, whatever. Technically, to me, the market still sets up point of least resistance to the downside. In this kind of market, you do get your, rip your face off rallies, and then they just fall apart. That's what it looks like to me. All my indicators, SPYs, Qs, IWMs, Dow Jones, diamonds, you name it, high PE tech, all are broken charts. Maybe they'll find some support here for a little bit, who knows? But for me, I see no EMA support, and I'm not going to be long no matter what. Okay, that's how I'll look at it. I'll err on the side of caution. Okay, looking at the markets today, you got the bond market, the 10-year up a little bit, 0.03 at 197.9, and the spread, I think, is this a low? It's about 0.08. If it's not the low, it's pretty much as flat as I've seen. Let's put it that way. Okay, the bonds in Britain are unchanged. Germany pretty much unchanged there too. There again, yield curves are super flat. Okay, you got to watch for it's recessionary caution. That's what you got, guys. Okay, bond market's flat across the board. Okay, that's basically the situation. Let's look at commodities. So oil's pretty much unchanged, down a dime. These stocks got smoked later in the day yesterday after opening super strong, bouncing back a little today. I mean, these are the few charts that really look good, predominantly in the natural resource space, commodity space. So to me, that's a good place to hide, no matter what they did yesterday. Okay, the charts are basically good across the board, and I mean, I traded them from the short side yesterday, and then I got out flat, and we'll see what happens today, but these are pretty good charts. Copper is unchanged, gold pretty flat there as well, down $5, nothing really to talk about. And looking at the agricultural commodities, they just refuse to come in, guys, and inflation runs amok. That's the situation. Currency, dollar's down against North America. When the dollar didn't rally yesterday, okay, which it usually and historically does when there's global uncertainty, this dollar is just heavy as hell. Okay, it's down against the yen. I think it's a new low against the Chinese currency. Look, these guys printed and printed and printed and printed some more, and the dollar's going to bear the brunt, whether you like it or not. Even when they talk about raising rates 7 times, 9 times, whatever the hell they're talking about, the dollar doesn't strengthen. And it seems to me like it's the currency's got some issues. Okay, euro is not much better, but in fact, they're probably not any better. But the dollar really just stinks. Okay, euro 113, so no change there. All right, crypto, we got a bounce back, 2% in Bitcoin, 5% in Ethereum. Solana's up 7%. Look, all the arguments about these companies, to me, no different than high PE tech. And as far as a store of value, I think that's a joke. Okay, maybe it'll change, but I'm just observing the action that I've been observing for the last few months. Okay, when high PE tech goes down, they go down. Plain and simple. If that changes, we'll make a note of it. But for now, that's the situation. And foreign markets, what do we have? We have the FTSE up 39, the DAX up 120. That's 0.82%. It's gotten pretty drugged, so bounce back rally there. Let's see what the Russian market's doing. It says unchanged. That can't be, can it? Unless it's halted. I don't know. It says unchanged. Doesn't seem very logical. But anyway, Nikkei was down 1.7%. Hong Kong is up 140.6, and China was up about 0.5% or so. Yeah, 1% actually. Okay, so that's the backdrop. Okay, so that's the bank and the Fed. We have this March. We know they're going to raise rates. There's a couple of numbers coming out between then and now, and we'll see. Right now it looks like it's going to be 1/4 point, and they're going to be pragmatic. So we'll see. I think we're going to get a lot of raises in our future, and hopefully that'll stabilize the dollar somewhat, and it'll help the inflationary situation. Okay. China, nothing really out of China that I saw overnight that is worthwhile. Something about BABA, but that's the same old stuff. I think they report tomorrow too. Russia, I didn't see anything new there. We'll see what happens. Who knows? Okay. Oh, Russia is down 4%. I don't know why this thing says flat. Okay, but I'm looking on. I should look at Bloomberg, but I am looking at the CNBC. So okay, I take it. Thank you, Eddie. All right, Russia crypto. You know what my thoughts are there. Oil. You know, we're in a bull market in oil. What's to say? Virus is history. Okay. Unless another variant comes, that's not an issue. All right. The mask mandates are coming down. People are going back to work if they're going back to work, and so on and so forth. Okay. Makes me like travel and leisure, makes me like the airline stocks, makes me like, you know, that whole sector. I think you can still buy those names. They act decently. When the market rallies, they're generally pretty strong. I think there's going to be a lot of travel, and I think it comes at the expense of the Home Depots of the world. I think people spent the last 2 years fixing up their home because they spent so much time there, and I think they're moving forward with more, you know, travels and, you know, stuff they haven't been able to do. I think that's pretty much across the board. Airline prices are up a lot, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So that's the virus, the dollar, Mr. Market. So Mr. Market yesterday, there wasn't a group that was good, to be honest. The ones that were the worst were retail, EV, solar, Bitcoin, high PE tech, China, HMOs, big oil, E&P, home builders, pot stocks, machinery, like that. Okay, so I think, you know, we'll see today. We'll see if they can hold this rally. I don't know. Okay. What else is going on? Let's see. Charlie Munger, I watched his interview on CNBC the other day. And the one thing that I took out of it that I want to share with you was this. You know, he was looking at the way things set up now, all the different things you can invest in. And he thought about, you know, his investing for the last 50 years or 60 years or whatever it's been. And he said something very interesting to me. And that was, sometimes you just have to buy the least bad thing. And I think the least bad thing is probably equities, because of the high inflation that we have. You don't want to buy bonds. You can't be in cash. There's so many things that you can't be in. And my conclusion from that is the least bad thing at the moment is equities. Okay. You still have a shot. You just buy value stocks or ones with dividends or whatnot, more predictable earnings flow, as opposed to these high flyers, which have been dog do. And I think that's an interesting point. You know, you can't always, you know, hit the long ball. And that's kind of the situation we're in, right? There's nothing there that's super outstanding. So sometimes you buy the least bad thing. And I thought that was a really good point that he made. I never really looked at it like that. And clearly, in my mind, equities are the least bad thing. All right, so numbers came out in a bunch of stuff today. Let's see, PANW was good. STLA, Lowe's, separating themselves from Home Depot a little bit, right? HIMS, which is a telehealth company. Skin, which was a SPAC. They have these, you could look it up. It's an interesting company. It's the guy who used to run, I think, AbbVie, one of the companies that sold to AbbVie. Melly was good. NU, a Buffett stock, had a good time, a good earnings, I should say. Overstock was good. RRC, they reinstated their dividend. The numbers were good there. Barclays was good. Caesars was good. This is probably my favorite gaming name. P Corp, P Lab, Texas Roadhouse was decent. LOW we mentioned. CWH was good. Ring, this stock is interesting. One of the few I kind of like. This was, I'm going to keep an eye on this one. Toll was decent. I do not, it's flat now. I don't like this home builder group for nothing. Okay. Other news, Tenneco, TEN got taken over by Apollo. Okay. What did I tell you yesterday when I saw the Merita deal? I said that this group goes in waves, and there'll be other deals in this space. So one day later, we get another deal. Okay, there's going to be others, guys. So if you want to look for takeover candidates, look at the automotive parts group. There's going to be probably at least 1, 2, maybe 3 more. Okay, when they start consolidating, they're doing it for a reason. Probably the transition to EV is expensive, and so they're doing all kinds of stuff to get over the hump there. And so I think this group is super interesting. All right, so that's Tenneco. What else? GSK is coming out with a COVID, applying for approval of a COVID-19 vaccine that can't be good for Myrna or the other guys in that space. And on the negative side, we have VRT, which was the first SPAC, and I actually bought it. It was a Goldman SPAC. It was run by a guy named David Cote, who used to run Honeywell, a real fantastic manager. And this morning they're shitting the bed. Okay, this is a cyclical company, really well run, has been nothing but net since it came public, and finally, kaboom. Okay, if you look at the chart, it's been up since the day they went public. All right, RXT, it's really amazing how much these things come off when they come off, isn't it? RXT is down 30%, CSGP 14%, MNDY 40%. WK12, TJ Maxx, they missed. MOS, I never thought they would have missed. They did. They announced a $1 billion buyback and a dividend increase. BHC, they're splitting in thirds. 3 companies out of this one. This may be a good spot to buy it. Another one that missed, Tupperware. If you remember last week, Bill Merlo came on, said this was super cheap. The stock ran from 16 to 20. Good dividend, yada yada. Last year he was pushing Teva and Gannett. He was wrong on both of those, and now he's wrong on this one. Back in the crapper, they missed, etc. And Teladoc, they're finally turning green here. They were down earlier. Stock's been a lug. What else came out? You have the KOD. KOD proves my point better than anything else, guys. This biotech sector is just for shit. All right. Baker Brothers are arguably the best biotech investors there are, okay? This is a very big position for them. In fact, in the last, on January 25th, January 31st, and February 17th, they bought about 1.5 million shares in the 52 to 58 area. And even those guys don't know. So how the hell are you supposed to know? It's just a terrible sector. It really is. And this was owned by a lot of guys, and they're sucking wind today. And not even down. It's obliterated. Okay, look at this thing. 50 to 10. Are you kidding me? Stay the hell away from biotech. You'll live longer, truly. OCGN, they went out nice last night. They're doing a secondary this morning. Tonight we got earnings from Bird, BBWI. That's a stock that a bunch of analysts like. Bookings Holding, that's the space I like. Biomarin, CHK. Clove, another Chamath or Chamuth or whatever his name is, Bomb. Stay away from that guy like you stay away from biotech. The guy's a cancer. eBay, GBT, LYV, VAC, and OLED are tonight. And Bob is tomorrow. Discovery, NKLA, Pizza, Shoe. That stock's been acting well. Letter W and Planet Fitness. Okay, that's all coming out tonight and tomorrow morning earnings. So be careful with that. Okay, you don't want to have a KOD and realize they have earnings and you lose 80% of your money. Okay, research. A bunch of idiots. Let's see what they're saying today. RXT buy to hold, of course, because they lowered earnings. They missed earnings. NOV, this was interesting. Goldman goes from a neutral to a sell. They're in the oil and gas space. All right, target 16, stock 17. Macy's reiterate the sell at Credit Suisse, raise the target, lower the target from 32 to 25. So a bunch of guys cut RXT. A bunch of guys cut ATUS. It's about time. The stock's gone from 35 to 11 in a straight line. Palantir's sell target goes from 13 to 10. True was downgraded by Morgan Stanley, not a hard downgrade. I mean, the ATUS probably goes lower. RXT, I don't know. That's really it. On the long side, it's the typical crap that you're seeing lately, okay? Reiterate the buy, lower the target. Here, Teladoc, reiterate outperform target 208 to 125. That's Credit Suisse. JP Morgan, that's typical. Okay, Coin, same character, JP. Reiterate outperform target 445 to 345. The only stock they didn't like was PANW. They had a sell on it. So that beat earnings. The other ones have been nothing but crap. Home Depot, same thing. Reiterate the outperform target goes from 406 to 365. My point is these guys stink, and just use the technicals. Okay, they're and that's JP Morgan, guys. They're just terrible. Once in a blue moon do these guys say something that's smart. They just don't have a clue. All right, they really don't, unfortunately, and it's a little sad. They just don't know. All right, Zoom, typical outperform target 250 to 190. That's what you're seeing here. Teladoc 110 to 72. I mean, what can you say? It's garbage. All right, talking about garbage, let's see what Kathy did last night. She bought some Path, 473,000 shares. She just keeps buying Zoom. She continues to buy stocks on the new low list. Path, Zoom, TXG, Tesla, no, that's not a new low list. Square, Coin, ADPT, every one of those is a new low, okay? And she continues to buy them. Palantir, which she bought at what, 30? Telling you it's going to be a great stock. She sold another 12 million shares at 10 bucks. Guys, she stinks. She was lucky and she stinks. All right. What can you say? Unfortunately, whatever she's doing is just no good. All right. Syndicate wise, we have the one deal. We have the OCGN. Okay. These guys have been historically really good. Value Act. They bought a bunch of NSIT overnight. Nancy, Sam, Ida, Tom. We had INSEE Biotech. I say it with a grain of salt. That's that was being bought last night. 500,000 shares. That was RA. No, RA was CTBK. Who bought INSEE? I don't know. One of these jokers. Doesn't matter. All right. So basically, I think the market's point of least resistance is down, and I'm looking for groups to short as opposed to looking for groups to buy because the technicals are so bad. So I'll see what rolls over and I'll pounce on it. That's my game plan for today. I'm not buying them up 34 handles. All right. And that's it for me. So let's see how it goes. Spartan, it's all yours, my man.
Alrighty, thank you, South Beach. Guys, morning, what's going on? Let's take a quick look at what we got going on today. They type up the pre-market action plan. So let's have a look at that real quick. If you guys are new to chat, click the Discord link that's emailed to you. We'll go through everything that we're supposed to go to this morning once we close down the YouTube stream. Pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got going on? Here we go, guys. In regards to the pre-market action plan, you can take a look at this, and I'll just scroll up. You can pause the YouTube stream if you want to and read it. Well, that's what you should do. But yeah, take a look at that. And then here's the option side of things right there. And yeah, we'll quickly just rip through all this stuff here. So a quick little recap of what we talked about this morning. Let's talk about what we got going on in terms of what's gapping up, gapping down, a couple different things. Melly, Tesla, PNW, CDNS, all gapping up. Tesla gapping up simply the market. Melly, PNW, CDNS gapping up on earnings. All of them decent earnings there. PNW, CDNS did raise guidance, so that's great. CSGP and VRT gapping down on earnings. Both of them did lower guidance. So let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two we're looking at, Tesla and Melly, or I should say Melly and Tesla. All right, Melly and Tesla, let's take a look. So Melly, Tesla, Melly looks pretty darn good intraday here. Same with Tesla, but it's all about the pivots. So 857, sorry, 957.64 pivot on the upside on Melly. This level is able to hold 1,002.66 to 1,045 will be tested. Unable to hold 920.33 to 894.23 on the downside will be tested. Overall, Melly leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher today. Tesla pivot 830.28 level holds. 858.04 to 886.71 will be tested. Unable to hold 804.94 to 770.16 on the downside. Overall on Tesla leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher today. Let's take a look at PNW. Let's take a look at CDNS. PNW 504.10 pivot level holds. 514.53 to 522.59 will be tested. Unable to hold 419.13 to 473.92 on the downside. Overall on PNW leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher today. CDNS pivot to the upside today. 148.88 level holds. 152.35 to the 459 level will be tested. Unable to hold 144.89 to 142.45 on the downside. Overall on CDNS leaning bullish neutral, if that pivot point can hold today, or we can get back above it, I should say. Let's take a look at CSGP and VRT. CSGP 49.93 pivot levels able to be reclaimed 53.25 to 56.43. Unable to hold 47.15 to 44.91. I am leaning bearish neutral on it, looking for a pop topping. Take the name short. VRT, same thing. 13.66 pivot, 14.93. The 17.15 will be tested on the upside if that reclaims. Unable to hold 12.13, 9.95 on the downside. Overall on VRT, leaning bearish neutral on that. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. SPY market upside 431, and I'm going to type this up as I typically do. One sec, guys. Let me just pop this up. And let me open this so I can type it. All righty, so SPY 431, 36. Pivot to the upside today. Holds higher into the 434.19 resistance, breaks. We see the 437.96 level tested. Pivot unable to hold from lower into the 428.53 support. Breaks, we see the 425.96 level tested. Going to be leaning bullish neutral on that name today, looking for a continuation push to the upside if the pivot can stay intact. Let's take a look at Apple and the rest of the FANG. Apple pivot to the upside today, 166.61 level holds. 165.61, sorry. Level holds 166.85 to 168.34. Unable to hold 164.16 to 162.12 will be tested, leading bullish neutral on that. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the upside today. 30.59.54 levels able to hold. 31.32.61 to 32.06. Unable to hold. 29.92 to 29.42 on the downside. Overall on Amazon, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Let's take a look at Netflix. Pivot to the upside is going to be the 377.54 level. Levels able to hold 395.38. Unable to hold 358.66 on the downside. Overall, Netflix leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Sorry, bearish neutral, looking for a continuation lower if that pivot's unable to hold. Amazon was leaning bearish neutral as well. Facebook 203.90 pivot levels able to hold 207.30 to 210.16. Unable to hold 263 to 197.26. I'll be leaning bearish if that pivot breaks to the downside, guys. I'll be looking for continuation lower. Let's take a look at Google. Pivot to the upside today, 26.19, 15 level holds, moving towards 26.64. Unable to hold 25.89 to 25.45 on the downside, leaning bearish neutral on Google. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM. VIX, guys, what do we got going on? 27.39 pivot, unable to hold, room towards the, 28.82 pivot, unable to hold 27.39 to 25.97 will be tested, able to hold 30.03 to 31.52 on the upside will be tested. Overall on the VIX, not leaning any particular direction, but I do use this for direction on the market quite often. And you can see that short-term uptrend did break on the VIX at the moment, guys. Let's take a look at Qs. QQQ, 341.36 pivot, level holds. Room towards 344.06 to 346.39, unable to hold. 337.58 to 334.15 on the downside. Overall on the QQQs, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. And then last but not least, guys, IWM. Pivot to the upside today, 197.48. This level is able to hold 201.01. Unable to hold 195.17 on the downside. Overall on IWM, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side as well, looking for a continuation higher. So that's the SPY, that's the FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. We're going to go ahead and cut off the pre-market stream. If you guys have any questions, you go to SpartanTrading.com. Thanks for watching. We do this every single Wednesday, as well as, recap videos daily and another video on Thursdays usually.